Hey, this is Jerry from Adventures in Homebrewing.Beer. I'm here with a little bit of a equipment review and setup. So what I've got here is the Serial Killer grain mill. We're going to do a little bit of an unboxing, and we'll put it together so we can get to using it. So it's pretty well packed. You can see here that I've got my nice heavyweight handle. Looks like the hardware that comes with it. And there it is, in all of its blue glory. So looks nice. We've got the base to set it up, so that way it can be attached to the top of the bucket. So let's look at this here. It's a nice weight. You can see that, let's see, it's 0.100, 0.050, and 0.25 to set for the crush rates. And so I'm guessing that, yep, there's one of those on each side, so that way you can figure it out and get it set correctly. I'm glad that that's marked. It's a nice nice feature there. So before I go through and mount the bracket to the Serial Killer itself, just want to show how this fits right over a 5-gallon bucket. It's nice because it kind of snugs right up to the edge. The area where the grain will be going through is not right on the edge, so it should just drop right down in the middle. It's got a little bit of a wiggle here because that's going to give you a little bit of versatility with different size buckets, but this is a pretty good weight, and it doesn't seem like with how it's set up to cover more than half, so that way I'm sure it goes through and it kind of balances it out, so that's a nice thing. So you'll see that this kind of lines up very easily. It's just going to be 2 screws going in from the hardware that they gave us. So first surprise of the day. So you know, when you're setting these up, you'll need a set of hex keys so you can find the right size to go in these. So to help you out, the size that you're going to need is 3/16. It fits right in there. So it's a good thing to have one of these around in your home brewery just in case you need it. So a little bit of a pro tip as you're going through and you're putting this together. Think about which way you've got your curve of your bucket. You probably want the handle on the outside of the bucket rather than on the inside. So do keep that in mind. So got this put together, and like I reminded you as you were putting yours together, to think about the fact that the handle should be on the outside of your bucket. You can see right how that fits in. There's going to be a little bit of a gap here, which is fine. That'll allow for some airflow. You can see that this can go onto a bigger bucket if need be. So looking through, I've got my gap right now, and to adjust that gap, you're going to loosen both of those, and then you're going to turn your crank to where you want to set it, and then you tighten it back up, and you're good to go. Now, if you want to, you can attach this nice little handle on here. You'll see that it's got the screw right on there. I'm actually going to be putting an electric drill on mine that I picked up, so we'll get that rolling here very shortly. So you'll notice that there's a good amount of light coming through right now. You can see the change in the light as I go through and change the gears on both sides. So just as a reminder, you'll want to make sure that you have a uniform opening going across the whole thing, so that way it doesn't crush differently on one side versus the other. But then once you get what you want it set at, then you just tighten up the outside and you're good to go. So you can see I've got a nice uniform, and I can check that using a caliper or a gap measurement tool. I know that some people even use their credit cards. So instead of using the manual crank, I decided to hit up a nice little sale. There happens to be a retailer that's going out of business right now in a lot of different places, and so I picked up this for a pretty good deal. And basically, it just kind of you make sure that your chuck is all the way open, and it's just going to slide right on there. And then you would want to just make sure that it's tightened down, so that way it doesn't come off. And then when you're ready to use, all you have to do is fill up the bin, give a little squeeze, and we're good to go. So one thing to think about, your drill might be heavier than the serial killer itself, so I don't recommend storing it attached. You'll see that mine's got a little bit of extra weight there. But let's put this down. And let's see her spin. Seems like a nice spin. I can kind of adjust which way, or excuse me, how fast this goes. It feels pretty solid. Seems to have a nice spin. So, looks like I'm ready to rock and roll and try this out with some grain. So the serial killer grain hopper is said to be about 7 pounds. I didn't quite fill it all the way up, but I got some nice malt in here from Mermation Malts, and this was a 12.5 pound bag, and it looks like I've used about half the bag here to fill this up for the first time. As I filled it up, you can see that just a few pieces fell through, but that's probably from me missing. So let's hook up my drill and see how this thing does. I'm going to see if I can get this. You can see I kind of turned on the drill a little bit. As we were going through, let's loop this around to this side so you can see it a little bit better as it comes out. Also, so then that way you don't have the sound of the drill right next to it. So it looks like a nice grind going through there. Just when you're doing this, make sure that you're not running your drill too fast. Okay, so that seemed to roll pretty well there. We got some grain down there with a nice crush. Let's fill her up with some more grain. So I just filled it up with the second half of the bag of the Mermation. You can see that I kind of mounted it this time. You can put in a lot more. So let's watch here. So one thing, make sure that this is tightened down real nice and tight, because if it comes loose, it'll just spin the drill. And won't get the rollers spinning. So you just went through and ground down just a little bit over 12 pounds worth of malt in 2 shots. You'll notice that you do get some dust, so do keep that in mind, you know, for your cleanup and things like that. So looking through, I've got a really nice small grind on this. And it looks pretty uniform going all the way through. I gave it a nice tight grind because I am doing a brew in a bag, so I'm not worried about this going through and getting into my filters and everything. But this looks really good, so I can't wait to give this a shot and see what's happening. Something to consider when you're working with this is you might want to put it down on some paper towels or on something else when you're done, so then that way you don't leave behind all this extra stuff. A wet paper towel is just going to get that, and when you're cleaning this off, I would probably just go through and give it a bit of a dust off to help it clean. Maybe a wet paper towel, and then just make sure you really dry it out. So here's my next pro tip. I did kind of wipe things down now. I'm sure that there was some static, but I would suggest either grinding your grain outside or putting it down on top of a cardboard box or something. I got a little vacuuming to do.